Let's talk about the most high-stakes real estate in all of football, the penalty box. At the absolute top level, you've got attackers who are faster, smarter, and more clinical than ever before. So being solid at the back, it isn't just a nice to have, it is the bedrock of any successful team. And it all boils down to a set of principles we call box defending. So what are we really talking about when we say box defending? Well, we're zeroing in on this critical patch of grass, that final 20 meters right in front of your own goal. This is it. This is the zone where games are won and lost in a heartbeat. It takes just unbelievable levels of concentration and flawless coordination, not from one or two guys, but from the entire defensive unit moving like a single organism, all under insane pressure. Now, the philosophy behind it is what's so fascinating. It's not a pure zonal system where you just guard a patch of grass. And it's not pure man-to-man, where a clever forward can drag you all over the pitch. No, it's a hybrid on the two. See, a defender has to protect their zone, absolutely. But, and this is the key, they always have to be aware of an opponent. Why? Because a world-class striker needs just 1 meter of space, just a split second of freedom, and the ball is in the back of your net. This hybrid approach is the answer to that constant threat. Okay, so that's the big idea, but how does this hybrid system actually work when the pressure is on? Let's break down the first big scenario, one you see a dozen times a game. The ball is out on the flank, and the other team is gearing up to whip in across. This is a classic attack, and you've got to have a disciplined playbook to shut it down. Here they are, 7 fundamental principles that the best defenses in the world drill over and over and over again. Each one builds on the last, creating this defensive chain that's designed to snuff out any threat from the wings. It covers everything from how a single player stands to how the entire backline moves as one. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here. The number one mistake a defender can make, getting ball obsessed. They turn their back on the penalty area to face the winger, and boom, they're blind to everything else. An open body shape, kind of sideways on, facing the opponent's goal. It's just non-negotiable. It lets you see the ball, sure, but it also lets you scan for those dangerous runs happening behind you. It's the difference between just reacting to a cross and actually anticipating where it's going to land. So once you've got that body shape down and you've picked up your attacker, you get tight. You maintain constant physical contact. Now, we're not talking about fouling here. This is about information. When you're in contact with an attacker, you can feel what they're going to do. You can feel that change of speed or direction a split second before you can see it, and that gives you a massive head start. It's like you can feel them tense up right before they make their move. This brings us to a really crucial point. Empty space doesn't score goals. Players do. So when an attacker tries to burst into a dangerous area, a defender's job is to legally get in their way. A little bump, a slight nudge. It's all about disrupting their momentum and their timing. You're not just defending grass. You're actively managing the player who wants to get on the end of that cross. You're making their life miserable. All right, let's get into specific jobs. The center back who's closest to the ball, let's call him the first CB, he has a very specific task. As long as his team has enough defenders in the box, his main job is to guard that high danger zone right in front of the goal. That's his priority. But, and here's the catch, the second the defense is outnumbered, that zonal job goes right out the window. Instantly, his mission changes to man-marking the most immediate threat. Of course, the best way to deal with a dangerous cross is to make sure it never even happens. So that fullback or winger who's in that one-on-one battle out wide, their job is to do everything humanly possible to block that delivery. Even if they can't win the ball back, just delaying the cross or forcing a loopy, inaccurate one gives all the defenders in the box a huge advantage to get set. But okay, let's say the cross does make it in. The whole dynamic changes in a flash. Defenders have to stay absolutely glued to their markers. As that ball is flying through the air, the goal is simple. Be aggressive, attack the ball, and be the one to get first contact. And the clearance can't be random either. You have to head it wide, out of danger, away from the middle of the pitch where a second shot could be even more deadly. And right after that clearance, the job still isn't done. This is the final critical step. Once that immediate danger is gone, the entire defensive line has to step up together. In unison, this one coordinated move squeezes the pitch, pushes the opposition back, and allows the whole defense to reset and get organized again. It's a disciplined, collective push forward. All right, so we've got a solid playbook for dealing with crosses from out wide. But what about when the attack doesn't come from the wings? What do you do when the other team is coming right through the front door, straight at the heart of your defense? Yeah, when the danger is coming right down the middle, the whole defensive mindset has to shift. It becomes way less about individual one-on-one duels and much, much more about coordinated collective action. The entire unit has to react together, almost like a net tightening around the ball. The very first reaction has to be aggressive. The center back who's closest to the attacker has to immediately step out of that defensive line and put on pressure. The goal is to get there right as the attacker is taking their first touch to stop them from turning and facing the goal. You want to throw their whole plan off right from the start. So as soon as that one defender steps out to challenge, it sets off a chain reaction. The other defenders can't just stand there and watch. They have to immediately slide over, covering the space that was just left open and keeping that central area totally clogged up. It's like a well-oiled machine where every part moves in perfect sync to protect the goal. Now, the players who are in those covering spots have another really important job. They've got to be on high alert for attackers making sneaky runs into the space behind the defender who stepped out. They track that run just long enough to put the attacker offside, and then they immediately snap back into line. This creates what coaches call a spring effect, and it keeps the defense incredibly compact and tough to break down. So why go through all this trouble? Why all this complex, coordinated movement? Well, look at this number. Because if you let an attacker get a clean shot from a central area near the box, the chances of them scoring are just astronomically high. We're talking about a situation where more than a third of those shots find the back of the net. You just cannot afford to give up those kinds of chances. And that brings us to the one absolute, non-negotiable rule. If all the other principles fail, if an attacker finds that pocket of space and lines up a shot, every single defensive idea goes out the window except for one: block the shot. Get your body, get your foot, get anything you can in the way of that ball, period. So we've covered crosses from the wide areas and attacks through the center, but there are a couple of universal rules that apply no matter where the threat is coming from. These are the principles for just surviving the pure, unadulterated chaos of defending your goal. The whistle hasn't blown, so the play is not over. It sounds simple, right? But after a shot is taken, a defender's brain can't switch off. You have to react. You have to move towards the goal. Rebounds, deflections, a keeper's save. That's where so many garbage goals are scored. Being the first to pounce on that loose ball is absolutely everything. Look, defending your box is messy. It's chaotic, players slip, you lose a header, the ball takes a crazy bounce. In those moments, all the structured roles and responsibilities can go out the window. Players have to be smart enough to instantly abandon their original assignment and just solve the most urgent problem, which is pretty much always the opponent who has the best chance to score. It's a chain reaction of putting out fires, and it's what separates good defenders from great ones. And that really just sums the whole thing up perfectly. Elite defending isn't just a series of last-ditch, desperate reactions. It's a proactive system. It's built on anticipation, on perfect coordination, and on every single player having a crystal clear understanding of these principles. It's how a team brings order to the most chaotic place on the entire pitch. So, if we boil it all down, what do you need to remember? 1. Defend as a coordinated unit, not a bunch of individuals. 2. Know exactly how your job changes when the attack is coming from out wide versus down the middle. 3. The opponent is always more important than the empty space. And 4. The play is never dead. Never stop defending until you hear that whistle. So I'll leave you with this final thought. In today's game, with all the superstar forwards and creative attacking schemes, could it be that this deep, tactical discipline in your own penalty box is the real secret to winning championships? Is all this unglamorous, hard work what truly separates the winners from everyone else? Next time you watch a big game, don't just watch the ball. Watch what's happening in those final 20 meters. You might just see the architecture of a title-winning team being built right in front of you.